Hi friends, I'm Shauna. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a new video. Today we're talking all about following through with your goals. This is an especially timely topic because we are exiting February, and historically myself and a lot of people, well, I know I'm not alone, we get all excited at the top of the year, brand new year, fresh start. We love the energy, we have all that momentum, and we set our goals. January is the time of year we are thinking our biggest, our boldest, and we're our most ambitious. By the time February rolls around, that motivation has waned and our goals can fizzle. And by goals in this video, I'm not just referring to no-buy goals. They could be any goals, but I'm specifically talking about compound goals. Goals that require more than one action or step to complete. You know, to me, there's a really big difference between, let's say, developing a gratitude practice, or even, let's say, working out or developing some kind of running habit versus writing a book or completing a no-buy or launching some kind of thing. Even, let's say, completing a class, graduating. There's lots of different examples of compound goals out there, and those, both can fizzle, and I think both can fizzle for somewhat different reasons. I argue that the number one reason why compound goals fizzle is because of follow through. Setting a goal is not the same as creating a plan of action. And I think most of us struggle or don't know how to plan for a compound goal. And I think if you are a planner, you could have gone stuck in this trap of planning everything, planning too much, planning for the entire year or maybe 6 months. And then a couple weeks in, your timeline is off and then everything is wonky and you go, oh my God, what do I do? Or maybe it really cuts off your momentum and and it demotivates you. And there's also the opposite problem of planning too little and just assuming that you'll get into a writing practice, or if you just set a goal of having a writing practice, you'll achieve it eventually. Goals that a lot of videos or suggestions that talk about smart goal setting and creating your why, those are great strategies, but those don't have the legs for the follow through. So I think if we're creating smart goals and we're just leaving it at that, we are doing ourselves a disservice in actually completing our goals because there's a lack of execution there. So we're really going to be talking about following through with our goals and actually how in the frick do you do that? We're getting into it today, and we're not dilly-dallying. We're in it right now. And if you need to pause and just grab your water or something, get in this. You gotta strap in, friends, because this is a long video. I'm going to try my best to, if I'm making it long, to have it be a reason to be long. I'm going to try to not make it long, but it's me. So the first section we're going to talk about is beyond smart goal setting. That's what I'm calling it. And I am presuming some knowledge on your part, that you know your why, and also that you know what goals you want to achieve. They don't need to be fully defined or fleshed out, but you need to know that you want to complete a no-buy, or you want to write a book, you want to run 10K, you want to get more fit, whatever your goals are. Now, smart goal setting is often labeled as the gold standard for goal setting, and it actually is a really great tool that I do enjoy. And SMART goal stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. An example is one I mentioned in the past in my contentment roadmap video. So the example is, I will enjoy my morning commute by listening to an audiobook for at least 20 minutes during each trip. I will try this out for 2 weeks and reevaluate at that point. I've personally found SMART goals to be great for experimenting with solutions. So when I have a problem I want to achieve, example, I want to enjoy my morning commute, or I want to develop gratitude. Often I'm not sure about the how. Well, how do I make my morning commute more enjoyable? Creating a SMART goal helps me experiment. I have the goal, or I have the problem, right? And I have the time frame, usually. And SMART goal setting helps me consider conceivable solutions that I can then try out and when you have them and when they are measurable, you can see if they're working or not. And then also when you build in that reflection or that check-in, not only helps it to make it specific, but then also helps you move on to something else if it's not working. In my opinion, SMART goals, while they are great, they fall short when it comes to compound goals. Let's talk about writing a book as an example. I wrote a master's thesis, which I'm like qualifying as a book because it was like published in a sense, and it was like 200 pages. Moving on. I also think most people can like conceive about writing a book or like the steps that you might have to take in order to write a book. I'm giving you an example about the book because I want to illustrate a point here. So please bear with me. So if you want to write a book and then you also are like, you know what, I want to write it in a year, you have your goal and you also have your time frame. And for argument's sake, let's just assume that it's achievable. What you're missing is a solution. The how here. That's, of course, where the SMART goal setting comes in. You would have to set micro goals to break down your bigger one. So you would write for, let's say, 30 minutes a day, or you would set, I want to write for 2 hours a day, or 2 pages a day, something like that. You have to make sure that your solution is actually achievable. Setting 2 hours of writing a day, what wouldn't be achievable if you could only spend an hour, hour and a half. So your SMART goal would be, I will complete my book by this time next year by writing 2 pages each morning. After 1 month, I'll reevaluate to see if I can maintain that pace and adjust from there. Now, we could be more specific by setting a specific deadline like May 5th, or, talking about what kind of book, a nonfiction book, 300 pages, 5,000 words, like whatever. So you do have some semblance of a plan here. But you turn around to go write your book, and you realize pretty quickly that to write a book, writing is only one of the component parts. Potentially, if you're writing fiction, you might have to do character development or do some plotting. For both, you're probably going to have to do some kind of outline. All that happens before you write. Then you also have editing. Self-editing, and then also potentially to an editor, potentially to a beta reader. Then you're also going to need to get cover art somewhere in there, secure your ISBN. You're also going to have to consider your marketing of your book. You're going to be sending out ARCs. Are you advanced readers copies? Are you going to have a marketing campaign? Are you running Facebook ads, Google ads? Are you going to be advertising on Amazon? You're probably going to spend more time doing everything else than you are in the writing. While writing may potentially be your single largest singular task, there are so many other ones. Also, what you would probably realize is that your goal actually isn't to write a book, but it's to publish a book in 1 year, which introduces a whole other wrench into your system. So even if you know that, you go back and tweak your goal. How do you tweak a goal to capture all of these things? You could still dedicate 2 hours a day to working on your book, but there is a fundamental lack of a plan and also lack of a follow through. All I'm saying is that a goal is not a plan. A goal is not a follow through. And there are fundamentally better ways to achieve your goals than just sticking with a SMART goal and planning 2 hours a week. In my opinion, the superior way is project planning. Most of us don't consider our goals as projects. I mean, project planning is a field in itself. It's a profession. It's a career. And there's so many tools, lingo, systems that work in project planning that could definitely benefit personal goals. And when we think of something as a project, I think we bring a different attitude, a different kind of mentality really to it when we're conceiving of something as a project. We're anticipating multiple steps. We're anticipating something that is large and robust. And it, in my mind anyways, it signals something different than a goal. A goal, I think, even if we say, yeah, you work towards a goal, I fundamentally consider a goal and a project as two different things in my brain. I've been reading some folks who talked about goal setting and how goals need to be motivational and transformative, to move your life in like a better direction. I like a couple articles between goals and projects. Fundamentally, though, I think that treating your goals as projects is the best way to achieve success and move towards a benchmark or move towards the life that you want and the person that you want to be in a much more calculated way than all these people who are talking about goal setting. I get the distinction and why people are making distinctions between goals and projects. But I think if we get so hung up on this is a goal and this is a project, then we miss the opportunities to reconceive of things in new ways. I'm not asking you to rethink writing a book or achieving a 10K run. I'm not asking you to fundamentally label them differently. What I'm suggesting is taking a different attitude and a different approach to achieving our goals. We miss a lot. Project planning offers a lot, and I think you're going to see it. It offers a lot of precision, a lot of specificity, so you can attack your goals like a freaking shark. Like you can get in and get out, and you know that you're doing what you can to move the needle. Hold on. I feel like with that said, I'm not saying that like you can't have gentleness towards yourself, but you can have a plan. That's it. And this is what I'm advocating, is to create a plan. I'm about to show you something that is my plan and how I plan for all of my goals and conceive of them as projects. When I conceive of things as projects, I'm more committed to doing the work, and I'm prepared. I'm prepared for all of the steps that's going to take to get there, you know? So while I'm about to show you my process, what I ultimately want is for you to get inspiration to decide what you would like for yourself and what might work best in your life and how you think and how you act and operate. So I do mine in Notion, surprise, surprise. And ultimately what I found is that project planners, as I mentioned, is a profession and it is a job. And there's a lot of tools that are created for project planners that could conceivably be used for personal projects. But I think we are most successful when we can put these tools like into our regular lives. So if you are already using some kind of digital software, create your project plan in there. If you're a paper person, create your project plan in there. Like there's no reason why you have to use somebody else's system or tool that's specific for project planning. For me in particular, I would forget after a while because it wouldn't be natural to check into that thing. So let's get into it. All right. If you've been to my Notion hub before, this is my front page and it is looking a little bit different. These are my overall, like bigger picture goals, projects. And this is where the everyday tasks populate. Notion does have 2 templates that they launch, which go together, which are projects and tasks. So projects looks like this. It's a card table. You can have an individual or a Kanban board, sorry. So you would create a card for each project. Your projects can be as big or as small as you want. And, you know, if you have a project like completing a no-buy, you could have a card in there for, let's say, creating capsule wardrobes or something like that. That could help you plan projects within a larger project. That's totally okay. I started off with 3 really, and then this one is not really a project. I'll explain it later. And I did that to test out different project sizes, and I've come to learn a lot about like how big a project should be. So we're going to get into my kind of test example here. And this is a blank page, and everything you see in here is created by me. The timeline might have already been in there, and the project tasks, I believe, were in there. Everything else was me. As I was mentioning earlier, a lot of what I've created here is based off of things that project planners use. I've just kind of translated them a little bit more to personal goals. I have a couple of links at the bottom, and let's chat about these features. The first thing you're going to want to do is your why. Put it here. Like, why does this matter to you? That's pretty standard. Your project objective. There's something in project planning called OKR, which is objectives and key results. When I fill out my project page, like for a new project, I set a timer for half an hour. And the first time I'm going around, depending on the project, I will do the OKR model, or I'll just do what are some key outcomes here? What are some success metrics here? And other times, if I'm starting something completely new, like I'm starting a writing project and I will have experience writing and I know what that process looks like. I don't have experience publishing. And so it's like, do I want to publish? If I do, where would that go? I don't know all of the things. So in my first round, this is what I wrote first round: figuring out formatting, creating cover art, sending out to beta readers, securing an ISBN, figuring out what I need to publish. Figuring out what I need to publish is not a key outcome, but I don't know what it is yet, and that's totally fine. So I'm actually going to show you an example of OKR because I think it's really, really. If you use this, then you'll have the link as well. But what I like about Asana's OKR is that they have personal examples, and I'll show you some of their business examples before the personal one. Let's go Allbirds first. Their objective is to create the lowest carbon footprint in our industry. Key results are all measurable. 100% carbon emission offset, 25% of materials is compostable. If you work with the company, you can clearly track and measure those things. For personal goals, here we go. Objective, have more quality family time as measured by getting home for dinner by 6 p.m., 20 nights in a month, being present by turning off the internet router to eliminate distractions. You can measure those things for sure. So if you're out of practice, like I am in writing OKRs, then you're going to need some time. So it's okay to not do them exactly like that at first. It's an option. The next thing is budget, time, or money. Okay, I need to just go off on a small tangent here. I promise it'll be worth it. So many of us do not understand how much time it takes to build out big projects, because we don't think in that way, honestly. And we are inexperienced, and this I think is where our reliance on things like smart goal setting or just thinking about high level goals, we don't fully conceive of things as a project. Therefore, I don't think a lot of us know, well, how long would it actually take you to write a book? How long would it actually take you to do this thing? For things that are maybe more habitual, I know how long it takes me to write a paper. I know how long it takes me to research. I know how long it takes me to write. I know how long it takes me to edit. And so if I have spent less than, and this is as a student, if I spent less than 2 days editing a small paper of, let's say, 10 pages, I'm in for real trouble. But my life and my goals aren't writing 10-page papers, And so if we have bigger projects, I think a lot of the time we do not plan according to the actual time that we have. In a full, Monday to Friday, I have a maximum, and when I calculated it, a maximum of 5 hours of time outside of work that I could be conceivably doing work, and that's not even every day. Also, how many days a week do I actually hit 5 hours if I could? Not every day. So if you want to write a book in a year and you have 5 hours a day to write, this is not your only goal. You're not just writing a book. You might also want to eat well. You might also want to complete a no-buy. You might also be publishing YouTube videos. There's other things too. So that 5 hours is more like 2, maybe 3. So how long would it take you to write a book if you had 2 hours a day? Instead of, I think many of us also set goals backwards, where we say, I want to write the book in a year instead of thinking, okay, if I have 2 hours a day, how long would it take me to write a book? That's, I think, that's how we need to be thinking about our goals. And many of us don't do this kind of thinking. I don't think a lot of us were taught, and I don't think it is like our first instinct. And so I think we need to be better practiced in thinking about our time as budget and thinking a little bit more about how much we could conceivably get done in a day. And I'm not trying to tell people to maximize and like work until midnight and get it done like that every day. How much time do you actually have to work with and plan accordingly? That's all I mean. So when we think about our time like a budget, what's your budget? What's your time budget every day? And I think this can be a whole exercise in itself. And when it comes to things like time blocking or even sprints, while those could be good metrics of time that you could stack on each other, different actions require different activities will take up different amount of sprint time. So let's say, as an example, I'm working on YouTube videos and I'm writing a book. Let's say those things are true. If my sprints are 30 minutes in length, basically a sprint is a unit of time in which you work, but sprints are usually not just like la-di-da work. You're like in laser focused sprints. And writing sprint, I wrote my master's thesis through writing sprints, and writing sprints for me are very much, you write as much as you can, as fast as you can, with the objective of just getting words from brain to page. And I started the sprinting method because I was getting so hung up. And once I just learned to let go and was like, just write and edit later, like just let it come out, I was a way more successful writer. But that's not for here now. What you can write in a 30-minute sprint versus how much video I can edit are different. And so I would complete tasks at different rates, and you would need to know your rates. And I think that is a whole other video. It's a whole other thing of math, and that's for another day. Also, I think you do need to think about resources. So what would you need in order, to complete this project? Do you need to create a document? Do you need to hire somebody? If I was creating, let's say, this video as an example, I would need to create a resource, which is what you're seeing now, to be able to be published. I think a better example would be creating a printable. Let's say I wanted to create something to help people learn how much they can get done in a sprint, like what a sprint is and how much time they can get done in it, so then they can plan their projects with sprints. That is something I would need to create in order to publish this video. So it's linked to this video. And it's something that I wouldn't naturally think about because I'm not creating resources for every video. You get it. For due date, I think having a proposed due date will help you plan. And we can get into ways of figuring that out later. And so you can leave your due date blank and go into project timeline. So what are the steps that you would need in order to create your project? So if we're doing a book, you need a brainstorming stage, a character development stage, an outlining stage, a plotting stage, and then you could write in estimates for each of those things, and then you could eventually arrive at your due date. Whatever you're doing, please timeline it. Even if you're not sure, give your best estimate and then create buffer time after that. Even if you do an educated guess, it will probably surprise you at how long it would take, even at your most optimistic. You can also do use the cards to create a timeline. I have done this with some of my projects, and because there are alternative views, if you use this template, that you could view things by timeline, and then you could view all of your projects in a timeline. So that would be the purpose of filling out this timeline here. But if you're not using this specific template, just write it out. Also, this is a little table that is the kinds of things that you would like to have for your project. Must, nice to have, and things that you want to exclude. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and just having a thought process of what would I need to get this done and what would be nice. as an example, it might be nice to find some new plotting resources. Maybe you've tried some in the past and they haven't worked. Or maybe, example for a no-buy, let's say you want to create a budget. That for me would be a must-have. I need a budget in order to make this thing happen. Next would be milestones. Milestones, I don't care what you do. If you are using a Notion template, paper template, I don't care. Please put in milestones. Please, please. Milestones help us celebrate our wins. The more, the better. You could have word count milestones at your first 100 words, your first 5,000 words, everything in between. You could also have, if you're doing a no-buy, you could have panning a certain number of projects as a milestone. Saving up a certain amount of money is a milestone. Your first $100, $500, $1,000. Paying down debt, the same thing. Completing your first week of your no-buy, your first 30 days of your no-buy. The more milestones you have, the better. The more wins you can have, and then the more you can use momentum to your advantage. So I just have, status not started, and then once you hit it, then you could put it achieved. But also, if you're working for something like, let's say you're doing a no-buy, and you finished your first week, and your next milestone is 30 days, then you could put it in progress. So you know in your mind, what am I actively working on right now? I love the milestones. I do. And I went out of my way to consider more milestones than I needed to. All right. Something that is super innovative, at least to me, that I really love this idea of is something called change control. And this is a process that is really important for larger projects involving multiple people. I think I need to get into it first. This is the process of how you manage change. Usually, from my understanding, it would be like making change requests in larger projects. And it would be a request for anything as small as like a 1-day extension on a timeline to an increased budget, or let's say adding a new deliverable or a new resource. Keeping track of your changes will help you understand what you need in your project, how it evolves, and also, I think most specifically for time, how you can allocate time and resources in the future. No project, like ever, gets completed 100% as it was planned. That is normal. So how much did your execution, how much did that vary from your intention? And this is most important for time, because then you can look at your changes and say, okay, on average, I changed, or I needed a total of 45 extra days by the end of the project, which means I'm significantly underestimating how much I could do in a day, or overestimating how much I could do in a day, sorry. Your change control log is really simple. The day that you're making the request, what the change is, if you've actually implemented the change, and then what type. I think the most common would be time changes, like extending a deadline or extending something. And I have this little status here because I'll give you an example from my real life right now. I have a couple of goals running simultaneously, and there's one that just kind of got bumped up the ladder, and I have not made any changes to any of the other 3 goals. So I could just go in real quick and I could say okay, today is February 23rd. Extending research by 14 days. I would leave it as not started because I haven't gone in and changed all of my timelines or whatever I need to change. So I think that's just a good indicator. And then you'll have your full log at the end of the project where you can learn. If you are using Notion, it has multiple views, this table that I created. So the first one is just extension, and then you could create multiple views for each of the other type, which is super easy. You just press the plus. Then you have table. Then we'll filter it by change type resource. So you'll only see a resource here. This is really a learning tool for your future or for the future. The last thing are project tasks, and these are the minutia everyday tasks that you would do. And if things take you multiple days, that's fine. You just put a completion date, but all of the small things that make up your larger project. This is the last part in the project setup, but you can go in at any time to add in more tasks, and you would likely need to as your project evolves and as you learn. My recommendation would be not to put in every task that you need to complete the project, only because that could be overwhelming. You'll also get delayed and things will pop up. Okay, here's an example. All of this stuff was supposed to be finished last week. It never did. And then I never did anything with it. So imagine a full long list of this kind of stuff, and you're going in there editing all the dates. And also, depending on your personality, having, let's say, a list of 50 things could just feel so long, even if you leave some of them undated. So my recommendation would be to go in, hit some of the larger points. Like if we're talking about a writing project here, write, complete chapter 1 and complete chapter 2 as like bigger picture goals. Maybe leave those undated, and then go in and start working on all the stuff that you would need to do before you got to writing chapter 1. And that's probably a couple of weeks worth of work, and then see how long it takes you to finish those things. And then you can start dating later activities. And hopefully if, things get delayed or things get changed, it won't be so time consuming creating all of this stuff only for them to be changed or edited in bulk later. That could be very frustrating. Whatever method you're using, I highly suggest to make your tasks visible. Mine are on this front page. And the only reason I date any task almost period is because it will filter in by week to my dashboard. Because I timeline everything, I know how long it will take me approximately, or how long I'm budgeting or would hope to complete a task. And by updating my change logs, then I'll know if I extend things or not. So I don't need all of my individual daily tasks to be dated. They just are, so they will populate and I will see what's on deck for the week. If you have a paper planning system, then you probably wouldn't need to do that. But make them visible and do what you can to make them visible so they're not like out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so here's a task database that will come with your Notion pack. This is not something I created. I've just adjusted it to, filter in the way that I like. Right now, I just have in progress filter. So I'm for privacy, really. So I have everything labeled with the status, the date, as well as priority task type in terms of like energy level, as well as the task, the estimated time in minutes that I think I would need for completing a task. And I've also kept in a mix of old tasks and new tasks, just so you can see a couple of examples. So the dates aren't super important right now. The task type in terms of energy level helps me prioritize when I do a task. I am most with it mentally at the beginning of the day than at the end. So that's how, when I'm choosing tasks every day, I can see what's left for that day or what's left for that week and then choose accordingly. Also, the task estimations in minutes will help me give a rough estimate and how much time I will need to complete the entire project total, or how much time I'll need that week. And so one of my biggest problems personally is in the morning, not knowing what to get started on. So when I see how long it will take me to do a task, I can say, all right, say I have an hour left before work starts. All right, looks like I have about 3 45-minute tasks. Let me pick one I'm most interested in doing and just go. Also, the longer I do this, the better I get at estimating my time, which is helpful for the whole project scenario. This is not super helpful for me in terms of like a Kanban board like this. Like there's just way too much. I prefer it like this. So I've just set it up like so. that's everything from me today. We could get into so many other things like timing your projects, also like how do you figure out what to do every day and like what my setup is for every day. Basically taking all of these tasks and then translating them into daily to-dos or daily tasks. And that's a whole other video in itself. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I plan my projects. I have been loving it so far, and I've learned a lot of things, and I've made some mistakes and tweaks, and it's just been good. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'd love to hear what you're working on and what systems work for you. I know this is not going to work for everybody, so what systems work for you? Thanks for hanging out, and hope to see you again around here soon.